Okay, here I have a simple form, and with this form I have the action set to nothing, so I don't want it to do anything at this time, but I have to also have the method. Method is going to indicate it's posting to either through email or going to post to your database. And then I simply have some labels here, and I have input tags, and those input tags, you can see that they're all typed text, except for the last one, which is telephone number. With HTML5, there's a variety of different types we can use, and it helps validate our form. So make sure you get comfortable of understanding what types we have. We have ones for dates, emails, and so forth. And the key here, what I really want to understand is, once I put these input tags in, okay, I already know that I'm going to retrieve that data. And that's what it's saying. Input says I'm going to type in some text, and it's automatically going to name the input field name. It's kind of name attributes just like ID or class. So it's just part of the form for that purpose. And so when I take a look at this page, my issue is the fields are not lining up. What can I do to make sure they line up perfectly? Okay, and so there's different ways of doing this, of course. And what I want to do is I want to make sure, because what's happening is the label, the text that you have there, is larger than all the other, like address, more characters in the name. So it's not going to perfectly line up. So what we want to do is, how can we clean that up, and how can we make some adjustments to our coding to do so? Well, the first thing really is what's missing here, and a lot of times you'll see it in the coding or books and reading, they don't tell you to put the label in. Okay, what I'm going to do is use a label tag to help me, and I can also help control the styling for that purpose. So what's going to happen here is I'm going to put in label, and I have to tell it what it's for, what the label's for. So we're kind of linking it to the field. So in this case, you're going to put in, right after the equal sign, in quotation marks, the name that you have for the input tag. Okay. Now when I do this, I'm going to put the closing label tag all the way over here to the right of the name. So I want the name attribute, the title that you have there, I want to use the label tag. And then what I'm doing is I'm linking the fields, okay, by basically saying for, and then I'm attaching it to what the name is. So now the label, I got the labels set up for each of these, and I say for city, for state, and so forth. Now you're going to say, well, does this change anything? No, it doesn't. But what it does is it gives me, it kind of puts this text inside what we call like a little minor container, and I can control the styling for the label tag and the input tags I have here, okay, a little bit easier. And so that's the key, is to get it in there and marked up. Now if you know, in theory, I mean, if you had it marked up as a heading, H3 tag, it would probably be the same aspect there. Okay, so now what we have to do is we have to apply a style to all the label elements. So I usually put in an external style sheet, but I'm going to create an internal style sheet up here so you can see it. And again, it's nothing major in that aspect, but again, use the external style sheet where possible. So I put in a label tag. First thing I have to do, because I want them side by side, and if I don't want them side by side and want the input tag below, that's easy to do. But in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell it to display. I'm going to tell it to be inline block. So basically, it's allowing me to utilize the block attributes, which would be like margin, padding, width, and so forth, because label is not a block container or element. And so, but we also want to keep it in line with the other text. H1, P tag, they're all block elements, and what that means is add space above, below, on the left and right hand side, so thus creates like an extra return at the end. So I'm going to do the display inline block. Then the next thing that we want to do is put in the width. okay, and you're going to control the width. Now this can be whatever you know, depending on the text that you have there and the font size. Now when I save this and I want to view this, okay, you can see that the input tags are lining up perfectly. That's what I'm talking about when it comes to professional. Now it might not look the best. Maybe you want a little extra spacing. Well, you know, a lot of examples will say, hey, put the break tag in and so forth. No, that's where you want to use padding and margins and control the spacing that way. So in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a style for the input tag. I'm going to add a margin hyphen bottom at the bottom. So when we add a margin, it's basically adding space between the elements. So between your input tag and your label. When I bring this over, you can see there's extra spacing there. Okay, so again, what we're trying to do is just, how do I do some formatting? How do I do some styling? How do I get it to clean up the way I want it to look? So using labels and then using the proper styling is an important aspect.